Welcome to the world's biggest online homeopathy summit. I am Dr. Suman Haldar, your host today.
So our next presenter is Dr. B. Dhanalakshmi. It is going to be a very wonderful seminar, I should say, on methodologies in multiple pathologies with special focus on one-sided diseases. This seminar is very, very important for every homeopath, each and every homeopath. If you are sitting alone with your computer, in front of your computer or mobile, just ask your colleague to log in because they will get tremendous value out of this webinar. Dr. B. Dhanalakshmi has done her BHMS from National Institute of Homeopathy, then completed her MD in Mater Medica, and now is a medical officer, government of Pondicherry or Puducherry. So I would like to request Dr. B. Dhanalakshmi to go ahead with your presentation. Please, we are eagerly waiting for your presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it is clear. Yeah, it is loud and clear. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Good evening, everybody, and my respected teachers who were there, Dr. Sparsa, Pankaj, of course, I call them Dada only. Good evening, everybody. My attempt here is to keep homeopathy very simple. It is not a complicated process which I'm going to talk about, although the topic looks very complicated. See, coming out of, I'm not able to share my screen. Dushuman? Okay. You able to hear me?
Yes, it is loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Okay. So my topic is basically I wanted to talk about the COVID-19, but Subhash has given clear guidelines on it. So let us not get into that anymore. We'll just abide by our seniors plea. But one thing I want to say that is a GE is available, and we all can evaluate our own, GE, and we can form the GE according to the regions also. The COVID-19 started in Wuhan and it has spread over to India up to Pondicherry. It doesn't mean that the GE in Wuhan should be the same as in India or in Pondicherry. We can we can form our own GE as per the symptomatology available in that region. The guidelines for this is given in the organon, and for instance 100 and 101, where it is stated that every epidemic which appears has to be treated as a new disease, and it has to be clearly worked out for it. Okay. So now let me get into my tributes to Master on the World Homeopathy Day. Now, multiple pathologies. Coming out of NIH, actually, I had a lot of tools in my hand and I could really hit all the balls which I was facing, be it acutes or chronics. But when it comes to multiple pathologies, like multiple diagnoses coming in hand, I had a difficulty withdrawing them out of anti-diabetics, antihypertensives. This we see commonly in all the homeopaths' home. They have the Cyclizum bottle with them, or the uranium nitricum 3x, or thyroidinum 3x, which remains as in maintaining medicine sort of So this was really disturbing me. I thought, what is the solution to this? I was really looking back, and then I looked back. I started reading the source books. That's how, I came across the Bogor Burning Awesome Character Therapy. I had an opportunity to attend a workshop with Dr. P. Srinivasan of Salem, who has learned from Dr. Veerabhadra Rao, who is an ENT specialist in Eluru in Andhra Pradesh. Basically my whole presentation is about that particular methodology which he has evolved. Although there are so many other methodologies, which I'm going to present here is that methodology which is formulated by Dr. Veerabhadra Rao sir, and which I have worked out in a workshop model, and we learned it, we applied it, and we are seeing results with that. That is why I wanted to share. Otherwise, being a clinician, I'm not here to formulate any methodologies here. A person with plenty of symptoms with informed diagnosis by both by way of symptom complex and laboratory investigation is challenged, and those that is what we call multiple pathologies. One-sided diseases are those diseases like sometimes you come across patient who do on a routine checkup they come with high hypertension and all those things. Now hypothyroidism just on the routine checkup they just come down with elevated TSH alone or with a blood sugar of 300 400 without any significant disturbance in their with them, like, without any trouble per se, you can say. Or you can see some vitiligo leukodema cases which is in full swing all over. You can see people with white patches roaming about without any concern about it or without really any trouble about it. They'll be concerned obviously without any trouble per se. So my concern was treating those cases with those multiple diagnosed cases. Like generally what we do is like when we come across multiple pathologies, what we do is we try to form a drug picture. The drug picture will encompass all the data of the patient and the diseases he's suffering from. And then we will be either coming out with if you're lucky enough, we'll come with a single drug picture, or we'll be having multiple drugs pictures in front of us. Either we'll have to follow through one after another. This is based basically on understanding of the physician and the interpretation of the knowledge we has acquired so long. And the scope of this is very limited. You know, it's limited to the patient's knowledge. It's limited to the physician's knowledge and understanding and interpretation. So I found this. Of course, this is what I was using for so many years, close to a century, 10 years odd, and the scope was little limited. This I saw by my patients, you know, following me for years together, and then they say, "Ma'am, I'm there with you for so many years. I'm your regular clientele." They were proud to associate with me, but I was not happy. Probably I'm not relieving them. I'm not curing them of the chronic disease which they were suffering from. So among the so many methodologies I tried, one was working out on characteristics. If I could get a clear characteristics, 2 or 3 characteristics, that would evolve into a good remedy. That was more curative. But then the difficulty with handling with characteristics is that we need an order to be followed, and that order has to be in right direction. And if we don't go in the right direction, sometimes we may revert from the process, from the path of the cure, or we may even end up with palliation or a suppression. This I felt, you know, I faced in my own practice. I don't say that everyone of us will feel that. I faced in my practice. So here the choice of the symptoms determines the possibility of the cure. Like, and next was prescription based on comments. We get diabetes and we prescribe immediately cephalantine based on. Of course, if you get a characterized common symptom like burning soles in diabetes, we prescribe cephalantine and Gymnema and all those things, which was like, you know, which usually palliates. That's what is my experience. It usually palliates and it remains like a maintaining dose with the patient throughout the life. Like as they say, lifestyle disorder runs throughout the life, and they also remain with the life with the patient. But Hahnemann says that the chronic diseases, true chronic diseases are curable. Artificial chronic diseases or the true chronic disease can never be overcome by the lifestyle modification or by the robust constitution. You really need some deep acting antipsorics, a series of antipsorics to treat a chronic disease. And when it is multiple pathologies, obviously we are overburdened with too many chronic diseases. So the focus has to be deepened rather than widened. That's what I felt. So the next was, this is especially my area, which I would like to share today. This is not my specialty, but this is where I have found a very good result. Like this working out on physical generals from Berger, Bonninghausen characteristic repertory. The chapters on sensation and complaints in general, aggravation and amelioration, appetite, sweat, sleep position, sleep with all those intricate details, sleep position, sleep during. These were giving immense value to the prescription based on the methodology which Dr. Veerabhadra was formulated. Here, the number of antipsychotic remedies were required was less. I've been applying it for the last 3 years, and I see that we could complete the case with 2 or 3 remedies in a series, and that was a very good result for me as a physician, because I was confident, like, I was often shifting remedies. I was often shifting remedies based on the characteristics available, and those were not always carrying all the pathologies on the base. So I had to shift from this disease to that disease. So that was becoming a cumbersome process for me. So the demerit with this is, like, if you're not able to elicit prominent general and non-interpreted mind symptom, it is a demerit. You need to be very sure of the general that it is very prominent in the patient. And if it is prominent, I have found that results are falling in place. The following is my, I'm not a person who just accept things for granted. And the person who taught me is Dr. K. Srinivasan from Salem. So applying the methodology, I found there were results. But then I wanted to give him a challenging case and see if it really works, and if homeopathy can be kept so simple. So I gave him a case of vitiligo. He worked out the case, and the case had, like, very few symptoms. Like there were no symptoms at all. Like, there was no change in state of health. The boy was presenting only with the vitiligo per se, and we worked out on BBCR generals. As we could not get any characteristic symptoms or a complete symptoms, so we worked out on the generals available there. He had the sweet desire, he had a very prominent sweet desire, and his sweat was odorous. We took the rubric sweat odorous because it is so odorous that his grandmother who was lying beside him used to say that when he comes in place, she nauseates and goes out. So that is how he sweats easily also. That is also there in the remedy which comes as his prescription. And there was sleep during grinding teeth. Sleep activities are the activities of the subconscious mind. So these are given higher weightage by my teacher. So on working out just based on these 3 rubrics alone, desire, sweet, sweat, odorous, sleep during grinding teeth, we came with sepia, and we started sepia with 0-1, 10 succussions, same 1 cup method with 1 spoons, and then the pigmentation started improving. We then increased the potency to 0.2 and then 0.3. He is in the process. He's there with us for 1 year and 3 months. If I have to remind you that chronic diseases, the shortest possible duration of cure as per Hahnemann is 2 to 3 years. So I suppose he's in the process of cure. And once as it becomes static, the pigmentation stopped. We had the guidelines from, again, same Dr. Veerabhadrav sir. He says that to work it on repertory of circuits, nosodes, and imponderabilia by Dr. Berkeley Square. And this repertory is a specialized repertory which runs in synchrony with the Boger-Bonnie-Gossen repertory. All the rubrics which are available are synchronologically available as nosodes in this repertory. You get nosodes, circuits, and imponderables with the same rubrics there. So we worked out that, and we could not get sweat orders, so we worked out on desire, sweet, and in teeth. You will get it not in the chapter of sleep, you'll get it in the chapter of teeth. In that, teeth, during sleep, grinding was there, and tuberculinum was the only remedy which he was covering. And here, to mark my point, that only remedy which comes out with these 3 generals is sepia there. And here, the only remedy which came out with is tuberculinum. And this was really helping this boy. It is still helping. We are like, proceeding with it. This is one case which really gave me shook me, like, okay, something is there in this methodology, that keeping it simple, just taking out the generals, prominent generals, and working out on pathologies is something which was really interesting me. So I started applying in n number of cases, especially in my OPDs. I come across a lot of patients, and they come with so many pathologies. They come with diabetes, they come with GRD, they come with kidney stones, all together in one patient. how are we to treat such patients? How are we to approach such patients? And with limited time available. So what I started doing is I started applying these generals into them. And it was astounding that, when I could spend 15-20 minutes of time for a patient and I could find out the prominent generals and worked out on it, the cases were progressing really well. And this is my teacher, Dr. Sunirmal Sarkar sir, from whom I have learned a lot of methodologies, which Dr. Gaurang was sharing, echoing my thoughts with Dr. Sarkar sir. And the person who's standing beside him is Dr. K. Srinivasan of Salem, who has taught me this methodology from Dr. Veerabhadra Rao sir. He is Dr. Veerabhadra Rao. He is an MSENT. He is an ENT specialist, but he's very keen about practicing Hahnemannian homeopathy. He's no more now, but he's a hardcore homeopath, I'll say, Hahnemannian homeopath. And he's a person who has come up with this nectar of working out on generals on complex pathologies. And I would just like to share one case alone because I had no time to make really any of the presentations. This is a case of a huge uterine fibroid in a 47-year female. And she had other pathologies as well. She had a huge fibroid. It was the size of 10×10. You'll see in the next slide. She had diabetes mellitus. She had GRD, vertigo, chronic headache. Chronic headache was there for 40 years. She was saying that it is right there from my childhood. I could remember that I'm running with a headache for long and I'm there on painkillers. But this lady was sent, she came from the hospital with an urgent advice for undergoing an hysterectomy because she was having a menorrhagia for 90 days and her HB level fell down to 5.8, and she was transfused blood, she was given hemostatics, her bleeding was not stopping. She was advised on emergency hysterectomy, but someone had told her about me and she turned up to me. And the way she described was really horrifying. She used to say that the clots were the size of a human liver, like an eye. There's in Tamil we call it moram. She used to literally lift the clots with a plate and throw it out. She could never keep a pad. She had to keep a lungi or a big 10 meters cloth sort of to really block the bleeding. And she was running down up to 4 HB and then lifted up to 5.8. Twice she has undergone a transfusion. And she had many complaints due to positive time. I think I'll just rush through. She had severe colicky pain in abdomen while passing the clots. There was general melee, of course, with the HB so low. She will have an melee. That was common for her disease. Can not stand. She has to lie down. Pain in the soles. I'll just rush on with all the symptoms. My prescription is not going to be based on these symptoms at all, because the symptoms were too many in her. I worked out her generals. There was heat in general aggravation, sun aggravation. The appetite was increased recently. There was hunger more in the afternoon. There was desire for condiments, which was triple plus. Desire for fish, aversion for sweet, intolerance legumes were there. Thirst was less, bowel regular, and urine NAD. Of course, there was nothing, no troublesome thing about our urination or micturition. Sweat was profuse all over, especially the front of the neck. She was really exhausted by the sweat patterns. And the sleep was sound. Her sleep portion was sound left. And she had snoring during sleep. Sleep activity was only snoring during sleep. The generals which I had chosen for the prominent generals which I found in her after complete case taking is that she had a desire for condiment. That was one general which I took. And there was a sleep portion sides. The sweat in the front part of the neck, I'd say that this is what is called external neck. It is indicated as external neck. In Boger-Bonnie-Gosson repertory, if you go to the partial sweat, sweat partial, you will see that sweat external throat is written there. So sweat external throat, and I had taken one more general of aversion sweet, which was prominent in her. This was exclusively my own choice, and because I found all the things prominent in her. On investigation at that time, on that particular day, her HB was 5.8 and blood glucose level was 324. I worked out the case. The remedy which came out was sulfur. I started sulfur 0.1 in 01. 10 succussions. Usually I go with the same method as was followed in Calcutta. We started sulfur 01 on 12/7. The follow person 29/7, she was doing better with the headache. All those pains were coming reduced. The dyspnea was reducing. The HB was improving, and the bleeding was reducing. Of course, I've not mentioned it here. And 3/8 she was better. I put her on SL, and 8/8 she was better. The HB was improving. Of course, I've not mentioned the symptoms here. She was doing better. The bleeding has almost stopped, and HB level rose to 10.5. And the menses stopped, the bleeding menorrhagia stopped, and her next menstrual cycle also appeared on 26/8. This menstrual cycle just lasted for 7 days, and the moderate flow. She was so happy. And the bilirubin level was 13.3 without any hematinics, and the random blood sugar was 193 without any anti-diabetics, only with the sulfur 01, which is based on the generals I gave her. And on 39, that's right after 1 month, she was better, but there was mild bleeding, for the next cycles, the pain abdomen was mild. So she was in the upswing, she was improving. So I gave her to continue the sulfur. I gave her sulfur 03. Next 1 month, maybe 10 days after, she started menstruating again, and there was flow only for 3 days. And the flow was scanty. There was no pain abdomen. I gave her sulfur 04. And next is 30/11, a month after, I suppose. Yes, a month after. Scanty flow, no pain abdomen, no disturbances. Last cycle flow only for 18 days, which was very less compared to the 90-day cycle. But still, it was worrying for me, because from the 6 days, it reduced down to 6 days. For 18 days of flow, I was little worrying for me. It was little worrying for me. And it was okay, moderately. And HB percentage was 13. There was little pain in the heels. She had a plantar fasciitis as well, and that was reducing. All of the symptoms were reduced except that the pain in the heels, which she was complaining. I've noted down only that symptom which she has at that present moment. Not all the symptoms all are put up here. So at that day, she had only the pain in the heels, and it was aggravated in the morning on waking up. Then on 16/12, that is right after 1 month, 15 days, 16 days, better menses appeared, and it was normal, no clots, no dysmenorrhea. Her HB level without hematinics again, and the RBS, the random blood sugar, was getting maintained in the flow. And by 6/1, she had cycles, and the flow was profuse. Now it is a concern, now I'll have to change the remedy. For this, I take the guidelines of Dr. Veerabhadra again. I worked out the same generals in Berkeley Square repertory, the repertory of Charcot's Nosols and Imponderabilia. I took disease, spicy foods. I took sweat, neck. Lacaninum was the only remedy which was coming up. I gave a Lacaninum 200 in 1 dose. Of course, I did not have Lacaninum 01 in my government house setup, so I gave her Lacaninum 200 1M. 1 month after, she was doing better. But the flow was a little profuse. There was giddiness present. I thought the nosod was not helping her, so I reworked out her case. I waited but the menorrhagia was not coming down. So I reworked the case. And there was vertigo, all the symptoms were reappearing. And there was certain change in characteristics which is not put up here. I worked out based on BBCR. I gave a Natrimeo 200 1 dose. So this is just there. She's still under follow-up. I want you all to see how is the slide, the uterine fibrosis of 10.5 into 7.5 centimeter, anti-wall fibroid. There was multiple fibroids actually. Her HB was 5.8, and she had hepatosplenomegaly also. And there were multiple fibroids. The scan which was done in Indira Gandhi Medical College in government shows that she has multiple fibroids other than the huge fibroid seen. Her blood sugar level was 324 from the government hospital, just for proof. After treatment was started, I did a peripheral smear with the improvement hemoglobin percentage, which I showed you there in the hospital setup. There was the blood smear also showed a normocytic normochromic blood picture and the fibroid reduced from 9 to 7.3. She's still under my treatment. So that's the whole, I owe everything to my daddy. He's everything for me. He found out the best schools in homeopathy for me in Calcutta when homeopathy was not at all known in Pondicherry, which is a remote place down south. So he's everything for me, daddy. Thank you. Thank you all so much. I would like to hear any questions also from you. Thank you.
Dr. Suman, can I add something?
Yeah, of course, please.
So, what Dr. Dhanalakshmi was saying, can you hear me? Hopefully.
Pardon?
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but we cannot see you.
Okay, let's see.
Just let me
Start my video. Yeah, it's better. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah. So I use Boger Bonninghausen repertory a lot in my practice as well. In fact, I've written books on it. So it's a fantastic repertory. I'm just, but what I've also seen is that very often, very common and polycrest remedy comes through Boger Bonninghausen's approach. And typically, it's a very good repertory for acute condition also, like acute fever, dengue, malaria. For example, the current viral BBCR would be amazing as a repertory. Also, especially when modalities are very prominent, when broad generalized modalities and concomitants, if they are very prominent, they are very good. But I would just like to add one more important thing here for the participants. You can't just straight away open Boger Bonninghausen and use it. You have to really understand the structure of the repertory. You should know where what rubric lies, how to use it, how to repertorize with Boger Bonninghausen. Repertory is also a different art. It is different to Kent repertory. It is different to complete repertory. It's different to Phatak repertory. I'm saying this because I use these repertories very prominently. And finally, I'd like to just add, because somewhere down the line, Dr. Dhanalakshmi and myself, we are branches of the same tree somewhere. So, so what I wanted to just add is that I believe, and I believe that she will also agree, that different cases require different approaches, and there are certain type of cases which respond very well to Boger Bonninghausen, and there are certain cases, especially where the mind state is very prominent, Boger Bonninghausen repertory may not be the best. So this is what I wanted to add.
Yeah. Can I just clarify a little bit? I'd like to add on. Like, of course, I totally agree with Dr. Gaurang. There are different approaches to learn Boger Bonninghausen repertory. You really need to know the plan and construction of the repertory. Each repertory is important. The plan and construction of Boger Bonninghausen repertory, you need to learn in depth. I have learned it for 2 years before applying. After applying, I'm here after close to 2 years, I'm here for the presentation. And this presentation is purely based on my clinics, and I'm a clinician. I don't talk theories, I'm sorry. So, of course, I agree with you, Dr. Gaurang. I have learned a lot of methodologies in NIH. Dr. Sarkar sir is a treasure trove of methodologies. We cannot, it's endless. You have listed a lot of it. My focus was on the generals, which was really interesting. A prescription based simply on generals could keep homeopathy so simple. It was so giving me so much of happiness that people who think that homeopathy is complex can really think that, okay, we can practice simple also. We can learn little, we can focus on little, a small portion and practice. And adding to you,
yeah, Dr. Dhanalakshmi, that is absolutely great, because most of the time, we generally in this part of the India, generally what we do, and Dr. Gaurang has also seen, generally we avoid repertories. No, generally we have seen.
Yes,
generally we avoid repertories.
Exactly.
Because actually repertory is for helping us. Whenever we are stuck, whenever we are unable to find the exact simillimum, or whenever we are studying, no, so at that time, generally we may get help from repertories. We may get help from repertories every time. Of course, every time. Repertory is a very good tool. But
and
it adds to the complexity sometimes. Sometimes it adds to the complexity. Okay, sometimes. But if we can use it judiciously, then only it matters. Otherwise, it will add up complexity.
Absolutely.
Definitely, I agree with you.
I just wanted to add one thing, Dr. Dhanalakshmi, that your talk was very good, and I really admire and appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know. It's an amateur attempt.
I know Dr. Srinivasan also through Dr. Charu Mohan, because he arranges my seminar in Madurai and Dindigul every year. I come there every year to teach, actually.
Yeah, actually, the chapter of fever and Boger Bonninghausen repertory is a treasure trove. Like, the fevers which are coming up right now, the COVID or swine flu, whatever you call it, the chapter of fever in the Boger Bonninghausen repertory, if it's explored, you don't need any other tool at all. That is my, my experience.
Totally agree.
Right? Do you agree, Dr. Gaura?
Absolutely. In Mumbai, I was just saying that in my talk that in Mumbai, for in bad case of dengue, malaria, and rainy weather, we totally depend on Boger Bonninghausen characteristics repertory. In fact, one of the greatest Boger Bonninghausen characteristics repertory teacher of India, I think you might have heard about his name. What's his name? Bhanu Desai.
Bhanu Desai. Yes.
Not Bhanu Desai. Sorry. There's one more doctor. He used to practice in Dharavi.
Huh?
Sorry?
Yeah.
He used to practice in Dharavi in Mumbai, in slums, and just use BBCR. In fact, the name of his book is How to Find Similimum with BBCR. I'll just tell you his name of the author.
You were taking the right name.
Yeah, I was taking the right name. Okay.
Yeah.
Desai only, no?
Say again.
Bhanu Desai.
Bhanu, sir, Dr. Bhanu D. Desai.
Yeah, Bhanu Desai.
Yes, I have his book.
Yeah. It's a treasure book. So any homeopath who really wants to learn what Dr. Dhanalakshmi was saying, it is Bhanu Desai. It's a gem. And this guy, Dr. Bhanu Desai, used to practice in Dharavi. Dharavi is the slum, as you know, biggest slum in Asia. And he used to treat many cases of dengue, malaria, 5 minutes per case, just with BBCR with excellent results. And his book, How to Find Similimum with BBCR, if you get it, if you read it, you don't need to attend any seminar, webinar, nothing. You can read it, apply it, and just become a master.
Exactly. It's a teacher in hand. Like Bhanu Desai is a teacher in hand. If you work out all the cases in Bhanu Desai, you don't have to.
What I will do for all our teachers here is I've written a book on Boger Bonninghausen. Once the lockdown is over, I'll just send it across, courier to all of you, and wait for your comments on it. All right?
Of course.
Yes.
Sure.
And anything Dr. Pankaj has to say regarding last presentation? Yeah.
Regarding the last presentation, I was some urgent work. I was out, but then I heard the initial part of it. I think something very good went off. I was not there. I'm sorry, Dr. Dhanalakshmi. So I'll definitely listen your recording whenever it is available. Thank you.
Thank you.
And